What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
So welcome everyone to Every Other Wednesday. Today is, and this is your cue, Sunjay,
Wednesday,
October
October
29th,
29th, 2025.
2025. Very good.
I
Thank you.
stayed up all night doing that,
Yeah,
because Mike's
you had
not
a
here.
short night. You had a short night. Oh, we have another old refrigerator box into a great white costume for Halloween when I was 10. Didn't fit through the door. Too bad. Carol, thank you for complimenting Sunjay on his penmanship. So today is October 29th. And now normally you'll notice that Mike Kerr and Jeff Tobe are not here today. And so it's Sunjay and me. So I'm going to try, Sunjay took over Mike's role with the sign. I'm going to try to take over Mike's role with what day it is today. Today is National Cat Day, otherwise known as National Major Allergen Day to me. Today is also National Oatmeal Day and National Hermit Day. All right. So, and in birthdays, today is Winona Ryder's birthday. And I just without looking it up, everybody just throw in the chat box. How old do you think Winona Ryder is today? We'll take a couple of seconds to take guesses. Oh, everybody's close except for Sunjay. Everybody's right around it. Okay, she's 54. Today is Winona Ryder's 54th birthday. Happy birthday, Winona. It's also the 96th anniversary of Black Tuesday, when the U.S. stock market crashed and started the Great Depression. Let's hope history does not repeat itself today. And it's also the day in 1618 that Sir Walter Raleigh had his head surgically removed from his body for the crime of treason. They don't seem to punish treason.
Was it the surgical procedure called a guillotine?
Yeah. It had been developed in France. They don't seem to punish treason like they used to. Anyway, let's move on to, so that's what today is. And also today is a day that we're going to be talking about a topic that we hope is going to be fascinating to everybody, and that is leadership visibility. But before we do that, we've been awfully rude, Sunjay, in not introducing ourselves to the 2 or 3 people on the call who do not already kind of know us. So go ahead.
My name is Sunjay Nath. I am a speaker and author. I focus on leadership and performance, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada. Mr. Richard.
Thank you. I'm Richard Haddon, and I'm a speaker and author. I wrote Contented Cows Give Better Milk and other such similarly titled works. And I talk about employee engagement, leadership, recruiting, retention. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. And again, the weather today is just showing off. It's gratuitously nice here today. So leadership visibility. Go Jays, go. What about our jumbo shrimp in Jacksonville? Can we hear something for the jumbo shrimp? They are the national champions at the minor league level for this year. I'm still not getting any love for the jumbo shrimp.
Sorry, yeah, we're going to have to mute Carol if she's going to cheer for the Dodgers.
No, we can never mute Carol. Hey, so leadership visibility. What do you think I'm talking about when I say leadership visibility, Sunjay? And don't give me a smart-ass answer.
Why would you ask me a question if you don't want a smart-ass answer? Oh,
you're right there. That's a good question. Yeah.
There you go. Well, I mean, what does it mean? It means a leader who is visible. I mean, break it down. And it's about showing up and being approachable, being aware, and being physically being in different locations. And there's all kinds of examples of powerful leaders and organizations that have created a strong culture who do this, and not necessarily by check mark, by checklist, got to show up. I'll spend 30 seconds there and then do the step. They actually physically go and they be there because they want to intertwine within the organization, the fabric of the company.
Yeah. This came to my attention, or has come to my attention over the last little while. Last year, I spoke for an organization, very good organization, great client, and they asked us to do an employee survey for them before I came in and spoke. That's one of the things that we do. And in the survey, we learned that there's a lot of good things going on in this company. People really like working there. Most people love their immediate supervisor. That was a really strong point. The worst part of their survey, and it was pretty bad, was how upper leadership scored. And upper leadership got really low marks along things like, upper leadership is clear with us about strategy and what's going on in the organization. We feel like we see people in upper leadership and they're, all that kind of thing. And we got in there and started talking with them about it, and we heard all kind of excuses as to why. And they said, yeah, it's true, they don't really see us very much out there. We're so busy. We're just so busy. And I thought, I don't live their lives. I can't say that I know exactly what their lives are like, the people in the C-suite in this company, but I can't imagine what is so important that they would almost never be out, kind of with the troops, if you will. And this is a company that is geographically dispersed. So I understand there are issues along with that, but to almost never be seen, I came away thinking, the people in this company don't have a negative view of upper leadership. They have a mysterious view of upper leadership. And I think that can, in many cases, be even worse.
So, it's interesting you say that, and I'm almost positive this example has come up on every other Wednesday. And someone, I want to say it's Stephen, but I could be lying, confirmed the story. So Eaton's was a very storied department store in Canada.
Store in Canada.
Right. For many years. And it eventually went bankrupt. And this was, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago, maybe. But what was interesting is the last CEO to take over apparently put in a helipad on top of the building.
Yes,
so
we
that
did
he
talk.
could,
Yes, I remember.
so that he could come and not have to interact with people and just go straight to his office and then get up and leave and go. And the timing is interesting. Like within 6 months, this organization has been around for 150 years, went bankrupt. And I can't remember when I mentioned it last time, someone piped in and said that they'd actually done work with them and confirmed the story. So this idea of not being visible is extremely detrimental, because then you're also I guess on some hands, some people go, I like the anonymity. I don't want to be stand out. I don't want to be seen. But at the same time, it doesn't give you a sense of belonging. And as we know, we've talked about this many times, that people don't leave organizations, people leave people. And so unless you create a sense of belonging and have people be excited and have the home away from home, the family kind of oriented atmosphere, you're going to miss out on people. You're going to have a higher turnover, and people are not going to,
because there's nothing particularly holding them there. One way that I would describe it is the organization becomes less sticky, less adhesive. There's not that much to hold me there. And so, somebody might say, well, I'm cool, I'm fine here, and my job's fine, they pay me well and all that, but I'm not really passionate about it. But there's nothing really holding me here. And then I see something across the way that I think maybe that would be better if there were something holding me here, like more personal relationships, then that might be a deterrent to that person leaving.
And so I was right. My memory hasn't failed me yet. So it was Stephen, and as he mentions here too, he actually asked the board of directors if they ever shopped at the store, and right there, and like he said, none did. Right there, that's a great example of a way of showing up. So about being visible, right? If you're not, if you're not shopping at the store, why on earth would you expect others to do so? And we've talked about, modeling the way in the past, but this isn't even necessarily about modeling the way. It's even more basic. It's just show up. It's be there.
Yeah. And we're talking about, I think, whether we mean to or not, I think we've created the impression we're talking about the CEO, and that's a big part of it. It's not the only part. If we go to a completely different end of the spectrum, there, I'm thinking about, sometimes you'll go into a fast food establishment or something, and the people on the front line are just kind of they seem very, very disengaged, and there's no manager there, and I've talked with people in situations like this, and it's not like that they need a manager there to tell them what to do. They know perfectly well what to do. Something about having the manager there and just being visible says, well, so they care about what's going on out here. If they don't care enough to even be here, if they're out in the back, or out in the back smoking a cigarette, or they're in their office, or they just didn't come in today, it's like maybe this really isn't all that important. If it's not that important to them, it's not going to be as important to me. So I think sometimes that's part of it, is just the manager, whether it's the CEO or someone else, just being there, not to tell you what to do, not to direct your work, not to breathe down your neck, not to micromanage you, but to show you that, yeah, I'm interested too.
And not only I'm interested, but I've got your back, right? There's a
Yeah,
sense there
yeah,
that says I'm the fail stop. You're going to do your job,
yeah.
and as you're doing that, I'm going to do my best to support you, knowing that things will fall through the cracks. And
Hmm.
again, just showing up, being present, and it's how you show up too, right? It's not just standing there with a big
Okay,
stick,
yeah,
with your arms crossed and pointing it, like
right.
you said, micromanaging. It reminds me of a story, a big pharmaceutical company in Canada. In fact, it's the largest privately owned pharmaceutical company. It's called Apotex. And Apotex, the CEO, the gentleman's name is Barry Sherman. He uh, he had a reputation for being a very down to earth guy. He was also a chemist by trade, and apparently the story was he had a chemistry lab in his office. But just in terms of showing up, he was constantly like out and about. And a buddy of mine used to work for them, and he told me this story. He said they were in the lunchroom one time, and there was this guy, a brand new guy to the company. He was like there his first week, whatever, and he knew the name. He doesn't know what Barry Sherman looked like. Anyways, Barry Sherman was walking through the lunch through the cafeteria, and there was a pile of garbage right near the garbage. And this new guy says to the CEO, and this is a big company. This guy, at one point, I think he peaked, he was the sixth richest man in Canada, like very well to do financially, huge company that
Just after
10,000
you,
employees.
right? Yeah, yeah,
And he
just
says to
below
him,
you,
say that again?
just below you.
Just, yeah, slightly. Um, and he says to him, he said, hey, can you just, do you mind picking that up, throw it in the garbage? And this is, brand new, less than a week employee saying to head honcho, would you mind picking that up, putting it in the garbage? And guess what he did? He bent over and he put it in the garbage and just kept on walking along. Right. And I mean, that right there, do you
And he
want to
didn't
talk?
stop and say, pretty cool for the CEO, right?
Yeah, apparently not. But you want to
Yeah,
talk about showing up and
yeah,
being present and finding out what's
yeah,
going on. Like that's
yeah,
that's to me is a pretty powerful story.
yeah. Well, don't you think? Well, and let's talk about some other things in a moment. Let's look at some of our comments here. Um, Carol, Toys R Us, yeah, with similar issue with the helipad. Fritz says one of the issues with senior leadership in these engagement surveys is the dynamic between middle management and the senior leadership group. Middle managers who feel unsupported or overwhelmed are more likely to point senior leaders as the cause of their pain, which can trickle down to the front line. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
think, yeah,
sorry,
and
I want
I think also, if senior leadership is more engaged than middle management, wouldn't you agree, Fritz? Doesn't that they don't have that argument to make then if that happens?
for sure. And I think though that the other thing though too is success changes our perception in a big way. And
Hmm.
we'll, Carol in her bad taste going for the Dodgers, we'll use this example. And this is really good because Carol can't talk back. She can type, and I can talk faster than she can type. So, but I look at the Blue Jays as an organization, and I'm a huge fan and have been for many, many moons. And they, for the last couple of years, people have just been pounding on senior leadership. Oh my goodness, they did this wrong, they should have done this. They look at this signing, this was garbage, this was crap. And now all of a sudden, because they made it to the World Series, people are coming out of the woodwork talking about how great the management is. And that idea of when you're butting heads, you look at that a lot of times with sports organization, finger pointing. You're not having success,
Not
and
just in sports. I mean, that's
right, not
everywhere.
just a sport. I'm using that as an example, but yeah, whether it's pick your measurement, whether it's competition, whether it's financial, whether it's environmental, whatever it is, when people get their backs up against the wall, we have this tendency to point the finger. And the part of that comes from the lack of cohesion within the organization. And one of the best ways to get that cohesion is by being visible, having these conversations, and in truly engaging in them at the level of genuine interest, not
Yeah,
how is your child, but actually,
yeah, yeah,
a great example
yeah.
is
It's
how you
almost
were
best to stay in
congratulating
your
Fritz's
office
son.
if you're good. Yeah, it's almost best to just stay in your office if you're going to come out and be robotic and not be authentic about it.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. You know, we all do work in healthcare, and in healthcare, I mean, they actually have a term for it. It's part of the culture, or it should be part of the culture in a lot of healthcare organizations, especially hospitals, and that is the term rounding. So, you know, doctors do rounding on doctors do rounding on their patients, just going around making sure and that kind of thing. That's why it's called rounding. But also in hospitals, the staff is taught and leaders are taught to do rounding, not just on patients, but on their staff. And I mean, it's funny they use that word rounding. It's exactly the same thing that non-healthcare people do, but they don't call it rounding. They call it being out there and visiting. But it's a super important part of a lot of healthcare cultures, is for the leadership to kind of mimic what they see the clinical professionals do with their patients, of going around and just spending and just checking in and seeing how their employees are doing.
So
And
hold on a
and you
second.
don't have as much of that then when you've got that going on.
So when I hear rounding, I think taking a 6 and making it 10. Is that the same
You're
thing?
right. Yeah, yeah. That's why it's got a whole different meaning in healthcare, which
So
is, you know,
so
I don't
let
expect the
me
term to be used in other professions, but I'm just saying it's pretty common
yeah.
in healthcare.
So let me ask this then, because I think there's a pretty clear case. Showing up is important. Why aren't people doing it?
Yeah. Well, again, when we surveyed this group, and we asked them, we said, this is pretty clear. We've got some empirical evidence here that says many people in your organization are unhappy that they don't see the senior leaders. Why do you not do that? There would be clear advantages to doing it. And well, we're just so busy. We're just so busy, you know, and all of that. So they said, but we'll do better. We'll do better. They didn't come up with a strategy to do better or a plan to do better. And then the next year we surveyed them again, and the same thing, the same bad scores for the upper leadership because we don't see them. And so the way that I put it, you know, sometimes when you're giving people survey results, it is your unfortunate duty to tell people that their baby is ugly. In this case, it was not our lot to tell people that their baby was ugly. Their baby was pretty good looking, but their baby was hungry, and they wanted more of that. And you know, some people might say that that's a real compliment. We want to see more of our senior leaders. Other people, you know, because in some organizations, I might say, no, just, you know, stay keep your distance. We don't want to see you. But I think it's because they're too busy, and also because I think they underestimate the benefits of their being there. And they don't have to do anything particularly. It really is a matter of being there. I've quoted this before, and I may have said it here on EOW. There was a general in the U.S. Army in the Vietnam era named Melvin Zais. He made a famous speech in the early 1970s. It was recorded, which is the only reason I know what he said. And he was talking to a group of future Army officers, and he said, you know, suppose that your guys are in the barracks getting ready for the annual inspection, and you're sitting in your warm house. He said, if you'll get out of your warm house and wander down to the barracks, and he used the term, sit on the footlocker. Just sit on the footlocker, talk to one or two soldiers, and leave. And he said, they'll know that they're working like hell to make you look good. And his point was, you don't have to go in and do anything. You don't have to go in and make the widgets. You don't have to get on the spreadsheet. You don't have to do anything. Just be there and be interested and be involved. But I think there are some things you can ask when you get there, and there's probably some things you shouldn't say or shouldn't ask when you get there. What do you think,
Yeah,
Sunjay?
I absolutely agree. So I was just reading some of the comments here. I had a
Yeah.
thought and then I derailed. Um, but yeah, the idea of what's the priority? Is it to the people here? I know what I was going to say. I was going to say this is that there's a huge advantage. Obviously, you're saying you go sit on the footlocker and you get to engage and you know you give them support and you appreciate what they're doing. But I also believe that it's fundamentally important from a business perspective because it gets you ears on the
Oh yeah.
wall,
Oh sure.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that
Don't you think you really squander opportunities to learn what's going on out there?
well, you do, but even if you show up just to go tell me what's going on, that's not going to be as forthcoming as if you are doing it on a regular basis.
Well,
and
yeah.
then people are
Yeah, I
more
think there
comfortable
needs to be a
sharing.
rhythm to it. It can't be an episodic thing.
Yes.
There needs to be a rhythm, a cadence to it. Do it with some regular. I mean, don't get in their way and don't be out there all the time.
No, but
But it needs to be
you,
so that when
you
they
know,
see you, they're not all that surprised.
I've said this for years that you go pay one of these big consulting firms, and like your big five kind of things, and you pay them huge money, and we're talking 6, 7 digit contracts to help fix our organization. This is all they do. They
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
they go
So
to the
listen, everybody, we are
CEO.
saving you 6 and 7 figures here.
Yeah, and then they go to the CEOs and they go, "What's the problem?" "Oh, well, this, that, the other." "Oh, okay, okay." Then they go to the front line and they go, "What would make your job better?" "Oh, this, and this." "And what do you hate
Yeah.
about it?" "Oh, what do you love about it?" "Okay,
Right.
write it
Yeah.
down." And then
And
they go to the
instead, if
middle
they
and do the
had,
same
if the
thing.
CEO or other senior leaders would do the same thing, number
For
one, they
sure.
would save a lot of money, but also the appearance would be better. Plus, it wouldn't have to go through a translation process to
Yep,
get to the senior leadership. It would be right into
100%.
their ears.
100%. But
Yeah.
again, the CEO gets this and goes, "My God, this is brilliant," and they go implement it, and it's fantastic. But to your point, exactly that is they could go down a few floors or walk to go to the front line.
Mhm.
Apparently, Howard Schultz is known for this. That he'll walk into Starbucks and he'll talk to the baristas
Mhm.
and say, "What's going on? How is life? What can we make? How can we make it easier? How do we make it better? How do we serve
Yeah.
people?" And have those conversations. And it doesn't mean they're committing to anything. Because I'll tell you,
Right.
uh, as a
Although put a pin in that, because put a pin in that. I want to come back to that. Go ahead.
as a speaker, I've always had this rule, and that is, if someone says something, I get a comment, complaint, or yay or nay, or criticism, I usually ignore
Mhm.
one. But if I hear the same comment 2 or 3
Yeah.
or 4 times, then I'm like, oh,
Sure.
okay, wait, there's more to it. So
There's
you
something
sit down,
here.
you have
Yeah.
these conversations, you hear a pattern,
Mhm.
then guess what? That's an opportunity to act and take things to the next
Sure.
level. I'll take the pin out of
Sure.
it.
Okay, well, I do think that if you said you don't have to do anything, and you're right, but if you keep getting the same message over and over and over again, or if you give people the impression that you're asking for their feedback because you're going to do something, you better be prepared to pay off on that, whether it's an implicit or an explicit promise.
Agreed.
Let's look at some of the other comments because there's so much. These people are so much better than you and I are. Sunjay
Like
Stevens,
that's
yeah, at
harder.
Edwards Life Science in California, all senior managers, including the president, have lunch every day in the cafeteria and separate sitting at a table I'm just learning to read English at a table that has workers so they can talk to them. Yeah, so that was another point I was going to make. Just the idea of breaking bread together. There's something that kind of bonds us. I don't know what, but I'm not. That's not an original idea, and I'm not the only one who's observed that. But something about sitting together and eating, and this, well, I think the idea of the executive dining room is probably pretty passé, but it's probably the unusual organization where something like this is happening, where, yeah, people in senior leadership are just there on a social basis, and I think that can be really important.
Well, we've talked about the water cooler talk, and it's that informal
Yeah.
gathering where a lot of the
I
stuff
still
goes
say,
on.
who still has a water cooler? But yeah, I know what you mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just email water back and forth now.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
Rob, thank you. Rob, go ahead.
I was going to say
Go ahead.
along that same lines on the water cooler talk. Oh, geez, I lost my train of thought again. That's what happens with age.
Sanjay, it happens as soon as it starts with a 5. I'll tell you what, I can remember. But while you're thinking about that, I'm going to acknowledge something Rob said. A wise author once wrote, "First you feed the troops." Thank you, Rob. That was quoting Sergeant Major James Prentice of the Gordon Highlanders in the Scottish Army in World War II. And yes, first you feed the troops, lead by example, and take care of your group. Absolutely. Fritz talks about their executive making a point of working at every one of our facilities at least once every month and always seeks opportunities to find new faces to meet. See, that's what I'm talking about. I and that's not, I mean, it's not complicated, is it? I mean, I very much admire the commitment, Fritz, that you're talking about that this person is doing. You're a civil service system, so hierarchy is really important, and yet this executive is there, but it's not complicated. It's very effective, and it's not complicated.
To
Something that
to
I've also,
Carol's. Oh, I was going to
yeah,
say to
go
Carol's
ahead.
point. For the contrary, first be the
Oh,
truth versus put your own.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. You're the
if
only one who
I can
mentioned it.
comment on that, which is this: you cannot truly feed the troops if you're truly hungry. You need to be
Yeah,
you need to be at a level that you can actually serve. So you do need to have yourself be at the right physical, mental wherewithal that you can serve
yeah,
other people. So and people think
right.
that, oh, that's selfish. No, no, you need to be able to take care of yourself to move forward. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to comment on that. So yeah, you can do both. Once you get to a certain level of proficiency, then yes, you help others, and you eat the table scraps at the end.
hmm
I mean, the real life example. If I'm feeding my kids, and I am so weak that I can't get up. I can't feed my kids. Now,
right.
I have a few vitamins. I put a few morsels of food in my face, and then I eat. So then I feed them, and then to gather more strength, I can eat their leftovers. And that's kind of the order of things.
You would have to hear the whole "First You Feed the Troops" story to understand. I don't think you would interpret it the way you're interpreting, but that we can move on from that.
Okay.
Steven says, when do you think you move from inputs to commitment on an item?
Oh,
That's for you, Sanjay.
yeah. Well, I would say it's the idea of you writing an essay. You do the research before you
Yeah,
create the thesis. Right? So
yeah,
you start
yeah,
getting that input. And again, if you hear from 9 out of 10 people who say, I hate the music playing in the bathroom, well, okay, we'll get rid of it. Like versus like well, Carol again saying she say, I hate hearing you're the only person who's mentioned that. You don't need to say that, but I think you're taking a
yeah,
mental note. You're kind of going, I think that's part of the one of the major roles of the leader is you're the conduit. In theory, you should have a relationship with each person that they can give you honest feedback. And then
yeah.
because you play the political minefield and the financial hat and the CEO hat and the economic for financial forecast hat, and you put all that together and you go, okay, I understand this is important to you, but this directly conflicts with this group here, and this is important to them, and you mush it all together and go, okay,
Yeah.
now that I've done the
But
research,
yeah,
here's how we're
and if you're
moving
not
forward,
even
and
out
this is what I'm
there, if
committing
you're
to.
not out there listening to everybody, you're going to get only one side of the story. So I talked with some people who do a pretty good job of being out there and just again being visible. And some of the advice that I've gotten from them, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, is sometimes you have to get out of your office. It may mean you have to get on a plane, you may have to get in a car, you may have to go, other times it's not that far. They're in the same building, and that's when I think it's even harder to defend not being out there. I can understand when yeah, I gotta, get in a plane or something, but even then doing that. But we also do have the virtual option, and while that's not as good, it's better than not being involved with people at all. And so, online town halls, virtual town halls, meetings, opportunities to meet with senior leadership, that can go a long way. And then people can opt into that. And if it's not a required thing, and people, then kind of who is interested. But also, if you're going to be out there and being visible with people on the front line, bring your energy. Be positive. I'm not saying put your head in the sand and be Pollyanna, but be positive, be excited. Don't be glum. Be careful what you say. Don't say anything stupid. And, senior leaders some of them are notorious for saying the stupidest things, even if it means, get your corporate communications people to help you out. Hey, listen, I'm going to be out there talking. Just, give me some ideas, some things that we want to talk about and things that I don't want to say to them. I think being out there sometimes with advance notice is good, but other times just appearing spontaneously. I like this that I read. Avoid the appearance of checking up on people, but instead you're checking in. There's that subtle difference with those two prepositions. Are you checking up on me, or are you checking in with me? Um, and then this is true of, I think, almost any communication between anybody, especially leaders and frontline. Do way more listening than you do talking. I've been, you probably have too, Sanjay, and many people on the call have, you've been at a thing where maybe the CEO or the senior person in the, or, everybody gets together and in the auditorium, or maybe it's in a warehouse and everybody's standing around and the CEO, and they just come and they just do like Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 wah. And they don't do any listening. They just tell, tell, tell. So do way more listening than talking. And I've done way more talking than listening. So I'm going to shut up for now.
Transparency. I think that's one of the biggest things with communication is letting people know what's going on and being upfront and being honest, especially too when there's rumors. If you're around, you're more approachable, and people can say, "Hey, is it true? Are layoffs coming? Hey, is it true? Is this happening?" And if you again, if you're, it doesn't mean you need to lie or manipulate or whatever. Be honest. If it's bad news, it's bad news. Like you said, you don't have to put on
it's going to be found out anyway. Yeah.
Right. And remember, bad news doesn't get better with time. So if we can share with people what's going on, and be blunt, be sensitive, but be real, people understand. That's been my experience. It doesn't mean they won't get emotional. It doesn't mean they won't get upset, but they understand. An example of that would be Nadella at Microsoft. During COVID, he was doing virtual meetings, and it was just basically answering questions. People, what's going on? What's happening? And what he knew to tell, he told them. And what he didn't BS them.
Yeah. Well, you said something that triggered another thought for me, and that is rumors. I think in the absence of leaders being out there and communicating, and again, you can send all the emails and all the memos and all the, information that you want, but there's nothing quite like actually being out there. In the absence of that, people are going to write their own stories. They're going to make up their own narrative. And if there's something that's in doubt, if you're not clear about what it is, then people are going to, again, people want to read mysteries, not live them. And they're going to write the end of the story. If they don't know what's going on, then people could get very creative and their imaginations can go wild. And suddenly you have a story that bears no meaning, no resemblance to the truth. But if you as the leader can be out there and make sure that you're telling the truth, then those rumors don't even get started.
Yep, I totally agree. One of my sales mentors, when I first started speaking, a lot of the stuff we're saying is some of his philosophies on speaking. On sales. Number one, he said, you listen more than you talk.
Of course,
and he said one of the most powerful things people have, especially in a sales conversation, is using the other person's imagination. And when there's a void, like you said, people are going to fill it in, and it may or may not be helpful. It may be a very hurtful scenario. It might also be helpful. But to avoid that, what you want to do is you want to fill that vacuum. And this is awkward because someone is ringing my doorbell, and
right now, go ahead. You need to go.
Well, it's not someone; it's my parents. So I should probably let them in.
They're
do that.
Early. Yeah.
So let me give me 30 seconds.
Do that. I have a couple things I want to. I have something that I want to contribute here. Again, when we talk about what that was fast.
I'm very fast.
Okay. When we talk about what to do, what to say, if you're a member of leadership and you're going to be out there, sometimes just attending meetings that you wouldn't ordinarily attend. I mean, it's important to attend those that you would normally attend, but it can be interesting for you and interesting for others as long as you're not seen as a threat, to be attending meetings that you wouldn't ordinarily go to, going to safety briefings, going to huddles, going to, to things like that. Can be helpful.
And you don't necessarily need to show up for the whole thing.
If
it's a 45-minute safety, it's just to pop in. Hey, guys, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do these safety meetings because I know how important safety is to our organization. And you guys being on the front line are applying it every day. So thank you. By the way, if you do have questions for me, here's my email, or I'm going to be in the cafeteria on Thursdays at lunch, and feel free to ask me questions. Or if you have suggestions for me or whatever. But it's the idea is opening up the lines of communication so that people feel heard and welcome and respected. And
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
even if they bring you a suggestion and you don't implement it, and if you have no intent of implementing it and you never think it's going to happen, then
Tell
yeah,
them that. Yeah.
tell them that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't string
Yeah.
people along.
Yeah.
Or like,
But at the same time, if you never do anything that anyone suggests, very quickly they learn to turn off the suggestions.
yep,
But
yep.
yeah.
And part of it, fortunately or unfortunately, is a bit of marketing. So it's not only doing the job, but
Oh,
it's
it's
also
definitely
taking credit
marketing. Yeah.
and claiming
Yeah.
it. So for example, saying something like this, going, "Hey, if you notice, we have this new whatever, we have this new program that we're rolling out. This is a direct suggestion of one of our team members who approached me and suggested da 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 da." So again, the idea of subtly implanting in people's minds that if you bring a suggestion, it could lead to something. And
Yeah.
and again, that to me, like I said, that is the marketing piece.
Yeah. Here's another something that I heard from a friend and colleague about what used to happen in a company that he was with. Because we've been talking about the senior leadership going out to the troops, but what about bringing the troops into where senior leadership is? And so in this particular company, they had something that they called a 10-year club, and anytime someone in the company reached the 10-year milestone, then they would bring them to headquarters. Sometimes they're in the same city, but more than often than not, they were in a different city. Bring them to headquarters, wine and dine them, really treat them well, put up in a nice hotel, let them come in and meet with senior leadership and just have just a good old time. But it was a way of celebrating and recognizing people with something different than a lucite plaque or a trophy or something, to give them an experience, to give them the opportunity to really have, I don't want to say additional influence, but just to have an additional connection with senior leadership for people who had reached a particular milestone. I thought that was a great idea. It didn't have to be 10 years. It could be, for anything like that. If you can bring people in, then that also, it just gets them out of their routine.
Yes, and obviously works better for larger organizations because if you only have one
Sure. Yeah.
employee, you only get celebrated
Yeah.
every 10 years. That sucks.
Yeah. Right. Right.
To Fritz's comment, yeah, there's a difference between an open door policy and office
Yeah.
hours. And
Yeah.
and and I don't think one is better or worse, righter or wronger. I
Oh, I
think it
love that.
depends
Yeah.
on what you want to do. And
Yeah.
personally,
No.
my preference is, yeah, I like office hours better than open door because if I'm in the middle of something, don't disrupt
Uh-huh.
me. Don't interrupt me.
Yeah,
Let me
but
do.
look at the last part of what Fritz is saying. It's a little bit of a zinger, and I really like it. The door was open for you to walk out and build those relationships too. So yeah, an open door policy, it doesn't mean just you come in. It means I can go out too. I love that.
Yeah,
Stevens asked us, what do we think about incentivizing people who make a suggestion that is used or generates savings or revenue? Oh
I'm a
well,
huge fan.
I,
I'm a huge
yeah,
fan.
I am too, and I think that the reward, if it's a monetary reward, it should be commensurate with the uh, the savings generated or the revenue generated. And
Agreed.
I've heard of people
Yeah, you
talking
don't
about
generate
doing
savings.
things that save the company millions of dollars, and they got a $25 Starbucks card for it.
Yep,
Listen, if you save the company millions of dollars, yeah, maybe you're not going to give them all those millions back, but it should be something that gets their attention. I agree.
absolutely. Totally agree. And yeah, my philosophy has always been if you create tons of value, you should get paid tons. And if
Sure.
you're just
Yeah.
doing makeshift work, then yeah, that doesn't need to be rewarded at the same level.
At the same level. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're down to our 2.5 minute mark, or now 1.5 minute mark. I think just to summarize, what we're saying is pretty simple. Senior leaders need to be out there, and out there can be in person, electronically, but don't just go out there and exist. Go out there and engage and get people engaged and show them that you're as enthusiastic as you want them to be about the business. Answer questions for them, clear up mysteries for them, bust any myths that might be floating around there, and soak up everything you can from them and learn from the people that you're talking to.
Yeah. And by the way, you said senior leaders. I would say it's all levels
Oh
of
yeah,
leadership,
anybody. Yeah,
right? It could be
exactly.
a
Yeah.
frontline manager. It doesn't
Well,
matter.
that's
If
what
you
I was
have
talking about
people,
at Wendy's, when you go in Wendy's and everybody's just and
right.
there's no management there. The minute a manager comes in there, and it's not because they're coming in with a whip, but it's like everybody kind of comes to a little bit. So I
Yeah.
think that could
Yeah,
be
and there's also, I mean, there's another piece to that, which is the accountability piece. So
sure. Yeah,
if you know that the boss might be popping in and you want to look good for them, look good for you, that there's that's helpful as well. Again, very simple idea. The idea is show up, create connections, and people want to be part of that team and move forward
absolutely.
together.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of moving forward, this was a bonus October session. This is one of those few months where there were 3 every other Wednesdays in a month. So thank you for joining us all for all 3 of those of you who did. Next time we get together, the calendar is going to say November the 12th. So we'll be back, hopefully, Jeff. And yeah, thank you, Stephen. But hopefully Jeff and Mike will be here. 1 or 2 of us may not be, but somebody will be. So anyway, good to see everybody. Good to see your names. Thank you. And as always, bring friends. And thank you for your stimulating conversation and your engagement on the call today. So it's November 12th, which constitutes what, Sunjay?
A
Every
fortnight?
other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday.
That's
Thanks,
when we'll
folks.
see you.
We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye, everyone.